That was the time when I had the most doubt. Like, I actually thought I've made a mistake. Hi guys, this is Sarah. Welcome to my very first YouTube video. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I am really excited to be here. And I hope you are too. I'm here because I want to share some of my journey of being a software engineer and pivoting to a chef. Now, that sounds pretty crazy, like,
Sarah, why would you leave your stable 9 to 5 job and go into an industry where you are underpaid and overworked and makes no sense?
true, but hear me out. I studied computer science not because it was what I loved, but because it would give me a stable job, and my parents really wanted that for me, and I get it. Like, your parents, they want the best for you. They want you to know that when you get out of school, you'll be able to find a job. But I did always know that I wanted more. Like, I planned at the end of my master's to go into design school or something more along those lines, and not to necessarily stay within the software engineering field. Fast forward 2 years, I thought at the end of my studies, okay, I've studied for 5 years. I have to at least give the industry an honest chance, because I can't say,
Ooh, I hate software engineering when I haven't even worked in it.
so I worked in it. And I still didn't like it. So I kind of went on this journey from being pretty satisfied with my job and pretty happy to realizing that I was more and more restless and unfulfilled, and thinking that I really needed more. My journey from thinking I wanted to switch career to actually doing it took about a year. So I was considering this a long time before I actually did it. But at the same time, I was working towards the career switch in a way, because I was saving my money. I was trying to really invest in the personal growth that I think was necessary for me to actually do the switch. And once I had the opportunity to actually go to culinary school, I still had to battle with like a lot of fears and a lot of doubt and a lot of, wondering if this was the right decision. But I did have a lot of things backing me up that allowed me to take the decision without having too much anxiety. So you might be wondering how I decided on this profession specifically. So, like, why cooking?
Great question. Thank you for asking.
I would say that the inspiration for this change was reading Robert Greene's book, Mastery. Now, I think every person should read this book at some point in their life, hopefully before they choose a career, but after is fine too. For the purposes of this video, I'm just going to tell you the main point, but I hope you're still going to read it. So, Robert Greene suggests that our profession should be linked to the activities that we did as children before there was any notion of what a good job is or a bad job is, or what is useful, what is higher status. He really suggests that we go back to those activities and try to find some profession that is very closely linked to those. The reason for this is that a profession is going to be very boring sometimes. There are really going to be hardships, and it's going to be these periods of doubt. And if you don't have something where you're really very profoundly attached to it, it's going to be so easy to give up. I could give you countless times where I felt like I needed to give up, or I felt like I should go back to software engineering. I mean, I'm not going to tell you the number of times that I actually searched for jobs in my area that were in computer science again. Now, context over. I did realize that I wanted to go into cooking, and I didn't realize what form that would take. Like, I didn't know if I would want to cook in maybe retreats or for pop-up events or dinners, or if I would want to work in the industry or maybe baking. I just knew kind of generally that I wanted to go into food. I ended up getting an offer to go to culinary school on short notice. So I had 3 months to prepare everything. And before I took the decision, I was very much in my fear zone. Like, I was very much thinking, what if this doesn't work out? What if I can't afford it? What if this is a mistake? What if this is the wrong career? What if it's a waste of my time? But at the end of the day, I realized that a lot of these doubts and questions were coming from a place of ungrounded fear. Like, I would say there are fears that are legitimate. Like, if I had no money in the bank saved up for this purpose, it would have been a legitimate fear to think, how can I afford this? But most of my fears were just fears of failure and fears of what people would think. And that's what kind of pushed me over the edge, the realization that I would regret this if I didn't do it now. And I would regret it only because of my fear of failure. 3 months of total chaos. That's what it was like. Total chaos. But also good chaos. Like, I had so many ups and downs, and I also really realized how much I love my friends and my family, and we take them for granted a lot when we're so close. But as I was about to leave them behind, I also realized, wow, I have such amazing people around me, and I'm so lucky for that. At the end of those 3 months, I left for culinary school, and yeah, just left the whole stable job thing behind. But I hadn't anticipated how much of a switch it would be to go to this kind of uncertain, unstable lifestyle. Because at the end of the culinary school, I had no idea what I was going to be doing. I was lost. Yeah, that even sounds crazy to me when I think back to it. Like, I was so I'd given up my apartment. I didn't have anything. I had sold my stuff. Crazy. Things worked out because I did an internship on a farm in Sweden and probably had one of the best summers of my life, just being in nature and being very grounded and learning a lot about the business side of things. But I was also very isolated in the farm, and I was really looking forward to something new. So I moved to Copenhagen and did an internship in a fine dining restaurant where I learned a lot, so much. I think I learned more in a week there than in the whole other 6 months that I had already gone through. But it was also very exhausting, and I did realize then that although I loved the rush and the industry, I probably wouldn't be making a career within the industry. So that was a very valuable learning. At the end of the internship, I did start looking for a job, but I hadn't anticipated how hard it would be. Like, I had no clue. I felt very dumb. Very dumb. Or very naive, at least. That was the time when I had the most doubt. Like, I actually thought I've made a mistake. I hadn't anticipated how hard it would be to find a job. And it was the low season in like restauration and dining in general. So nobody was hiring, not even like places where I didn't necessarily want to work, but that I was still applying to because I felt like I needed a job. And honestly, like, I didn't realize this before, but I think a lot of how I identify was my work. And when I didn't have that, or I wasn't like studying or working actively towards that in some form, like an internship or something, I felt so guilty and so kind of worthless. And I know you're not supposed to say that, but that's how I felt. And it was hard. It was very eye-opening though, because I did realize, okay, I'm more than my job and my Strava stats. And I think it did help me work through some stuff there. The other things that helped me during that time were definitely my close circle of friends, and then maybe some sort of faith that this wouldn't last. Like, I knew at some point jobs would start picking up again. And then the third thing that helped me was intensely training for a triathlon. You know, it's cheaper than therapy. Fast forward to the present time, I now have a job. I am working as a chef, and I finally feel ready to share this. Now, I wish I had started this when I was still looking for a job, because I think that it's also very valuable for people to see the grind, like the hard times. And I wish I could go back, but I'm confident there will be many more hard times. Anyway, that's kind of a very high level overview of how I went from being a software engineer to a chef in 1 year. That's how much time it takes to change your life.
Anyway,
the reason I'm starting this YouTube channel is just because I hope that I can share some of the things I've learned. And I also wish someone had been a mentor for me when I was looking into changing careers. Like I had no one to turn to and not that many people that I could look at as an example. So if you've ever thought about switching careers or if you've ever wondered if it's possible, I'm here to share the real and unfiltered journey. I'm going to be talking about the very high highs and the very low lows and the good times and the bad times and sickness and health. And yeah, I hope that it can just make someone feel less alone. And if you are starting out on the journey or if you've done a career switch, I would love to hear about it. I am also going to be sharing more about how I financed this. So if you're kind of looking into planning this kind of career switch, maybe that can be helpful for you. And I am going to be sharing a bit about my life in Copenhagen and what it's like to move to a new country and do this whole life change. If you found this video interesting or helpful or you can identify with it in some way, I hope you'll consider sticking around and commenting and like reaching out if you're thinking about making the same switch or if you've made the switch. I hope someone today felt less alone or inspired to take the step. If not, I hope you still had a good day. I have to use this closing from Freakonomics. It's so cute. Take care of yourself and, if you can, someone else too. Bye.